In 1956, a woman named Sarah Ndilov, who stepped into our law office in Johannesburg, her presence as steady as the ancient trees of her native Transkei. The air in our small office was heavy with the scent of dust and aging paper, the hum of the city, a faint pulse through our thin walls. Sarah, a teacher from Orlando Township, carried a quiet strength, but her eyes held a storm of fear and resolve. She had been arrested for defying the Bantu Education Act, a cruel law designed to chain the minds of black children to servitude. She had refused to teach the government's degraded curriculum, choosing instead to nurture her students' dreams with lessons of history, literature, and pride. For this act of courage, she faced charges of incitement and subversion, with the threat of prison looming over her and her family. Her story gripped my heart, for it was not just her freedom at stake, but the future of a generation. I vowed to fight for her, to stand against a system that sought to dim the light of knowledge. The Bantu Education Act of 1953 was a dagger aimed at the soul of our people. It declared that black children deserved only an education fit for hewers of wood and drawers of water, as the Apartheid government so callously put it. Schools for black students were stripped of resources, their curriculums rewritten to teach submission rather than aspiration. In Orlando, Sarah ran a small schoolroom where the laughter of children mingled with the scratch of chalk on a battered blackboard. Her classroom was a sanctuary place where she taught not just reading and writing, but the stories of our ancestors, the poetry of freedom, and the truth of our worth. She believed, as I did, that education was a weapon against oppression, a spark to ignite young minds. But the authorities saw her as a threat. Inspectors stormed her school, their boots heavy on the wooden floor, demanding she teach the approved lesson styles of white supremacy and black inferiority. Sarah refused, her voice calm but unyielding. She continued teaching her students about Shaka Zulu's courage, about the world beyond apartheid's borders, about their right to dream. Word of her defiance spread, and parents whispered her name with pride, but the state answered with force. One dawn, police dragged her from her classroom, her students' cries echoing in her wake. She was charged with inciting rebellion, a crime that could mean years in prison, leaving her 2 young sons and her aging father without her care. When Sarah came to Mandela and Tambo, she sat across from me, her hands folded but her gaze fierce. I couldn't betray them, she said, her voice steady. My students deserve to know they are more than what this government says. Her words were a call to arms, a reminder of why we fought. Oliver and I took her case with a fire in our hearts, knowing it was a chance to challenge the Bantu Education Act's stranglehold on our future. We worked late into the night, the clatter of our typewriter a defiant rhythm against the city's hum. We gathered statements from parents who valued Sarah's teaching, from students who spoke of her as a beacon, and from community leaders who saw her school as a lifeline. We argued that her lessons were no crime, but an act of justice, a refusal to let apartheid dim the light of knowledge. The preparation was grueling. We pored over the Act's legal text, searching for loopholes, and studied court precedents, though we knew the system was rigged against us. I thought of my own children, of the dreams I held for them, and felt the weight of Sarah's fight as if it were my own. Her courage was a mirror to our struggle, a reminder that every stand, no matter how small, was a blow against oppression. The trial day dawned, and the courthouse stood like a fortress of white power, its walls steeped in the arrogance of apartheid. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of polished wood and the weight of judgment. The gallery was packed teachers, parents, ANC comrades, and students who had slipped away from school to support their teacher. The prosecutor, a man with a sharp jaw and sharper words, branded Sarah a subversive, a danger to public order. He waved her lesson plans as evidence, twisting her teachings into threats, claiming they incited rebellion. His voice dripped with contempt, as if educating black children to think was a crime against nature. When I rose to speak, my heart pounded, but my voice was steady, a drumbeat of defiance. I held up one of Sarah's lesson books, its pages filled with notes on African history and poetry, and spoke her truth. "This is no subversion," I declared. "This is education, right of every child to know their worth, their history, their potential." I told of Sarah's classroom, where children learned to dream beyond the township's dusty lanes, of her sons who needed her guidance, of the community that rallied behind her. I challenged the Bantu Education Act itself, calling it a theft of minds, a law that shackled the future to preserve white supremacy. To punish Sarah Ndilavu, I concluded, is to punish a woman for daring to light a path to freedom. The gallery stirred, a low hum of agreement, and I saw tears in the eyes of a young girl clutching her mother's hand. The judge, a gaunt figure in black robes, listened with a face like stone. His verdict was swift, guilty. Sarah was sentenced to 6 months in prison, her teaching license revoked. The gallery gasped, a wave of sorrow and anger, but Sarah stood tall, her gaze unwavering. As the guards led her away, she turned to me and whispered, "Keep teaching them, Madiba. They are our hope." Her words were a torch passed to me, a vow I would carry forward. The loss was a heavy blow, but it was not the end. Sarah's case became a rallying cry, a spark that lit fires across Orlando and beyond. Parents and teachers defied the Bantu Education Act, setting up secret schools in homes and churches, teaching the lessons Sarah had championed. The ANC spread her story through pamphlets and rallies, her name a symbol of resistance. Students, inspired by her courage, joined youth movements, their voices rising in song and protest. The courtroom defeat had exposed the act's cruelty, drawing international attention to apartheid's assault on education. It was a crack in the system's armor, a sign that our fight could pierce even the strongest walls. In the quiet of our office after the trial, the city's hum a distant echo. I sat with Oliver, reflecting on what we had achieved. Sarah's sacrifice, her students' tears, her unyielding spirit were our fuel. We had not saved her from prison, but we had kept her light alive. The struggle for education, for dignity, for freedom, burned brighter because of her. As I faced my own imprisonment years later, I carried Sarah's words with me. They are our hope. They reminded me that every fight, every loss, plants a seed for the future. To you who hear this tale, let Sarah's courage inspire you. Whatever chains bind your mind, whatever system seeks to dim your light, stand firm and teach the truth. Your voice, like hers, can ignite a generation. Let it burn bright, and let it light the way to a world where all are free.